Hey everyone. So today we're going to bring on someone that I've known in the industry for a pretty long time. And he just sold a majority share of his business for a life-changing amount. And he's someone who just has a lot of insight into the insurance business. He sees a lot of the things that many people don't see. And the conversations I've had with Justin Brock have always been insightful. And today we're going to talk about a topic regarding the LOA model and how agents who should consider an LOA model, why you should consider it, the pros and cons, and just talk about it because it's something that is going to become a lot more common in the industry. And yeah, let me just bring Justin on right now. And Justin, welcome, buddy.
Hey, brother. Thank you so much for having me, man.
Yeah, of course. Of course. Now, look, man, I know that we can chop it up for hours on a variety of topics, but I want to have a conversation about something that not many agencies or YouTube channels are really spending much time on. And that's growing through LOA agents and specifically helping agents figure out if that's the right path for them. And you and I have been chatting for a bit prior to this. Hit record on this thing, and let's start with you. So the people who don't know who you are, Justin, tell us kind of where you are now in your business, and talk about kind of your LOA model, and how many LOA agents you have, so we kind of set the table for the discussion.
Yeah. So, March of this year, we partnered. We sold 51% equity in our businesses. There's a couple of different, ones going on, but we sold it as an entire enterprise to AmeriLife, and so we're navigating that. But if you just kind of back it up, the bones of what we built started as, um, I was independent agent, selling street level, and then eventually figured out how to create consistent lead flow and predictable lead flow and built an LOA model around that. Then we built a media brand sort of online. I'd hate to throw that term around loosely because, there's very big media brands, but a very niche media brand, I would say, that we were communicating with agents online before we would even ever recruit an agent. The goal actually wasn't recruiting agents. It was just an outlet. But the media brand took off and people were seeing what success we had with our in-house LOA agent side and the marketing we were having. And so we began to put out content that would help them with that. We began to do events, and eventually we created a brokerage arm, but our brokerage arm was dedicated to finding independent agents, primarily in the Medicare space, that were having success, but needing to know what the next level was. How do I put one foot in front of the other, now, because sometimes people will max out their individual capacity or they'll burn out their individual capacity. And it's like, how do I navigate? And the traditional kind of multi-level marketing approach of the industry creates what I would consider an unrealistic precedent for what the next step is. And so we kind of became, in the Medicare world, the champions of a brokerage arm that encouraged people to hire LOAs. And, yeah. And I mean, I'll kind of leave it there. I mean, where I have a problem with just rambling too much. Uh,
Well, for the agents that are just beginning in the business watching this, an LOA is a licensed only agent, basically an agent that's not paying for anything. They can be an employee or some sort of free lead program, but all the commissions are assigned to whoever's paying for those leads, their upline or their agency or whatever that is, just so people have a clear understanding of what an LOA is. So Justin, you said you started as an independent agent and you ended up hiring. Talk about how you hired your first LOA, like the process around that, like how you knew it was time, kind of what the experience was, kind of what you were feeling around that.
yeah. So, I mean, my first LOA that we hired came out of necessity because I had figured out. So, you know, I guess when you look at it as a psychological effect. So, when I got into the insurance industry, my goal was to make $60,000 a year. And that was because I came out of the Marine Corps. I was a sergeant in the Marine Corps, and I had decided if I made $60,000 a year, I could keep the same level of standard of living for my family. So I get out and I started door-to-door sales through direct mail, business reply cards, which what a lot of people would do. For those of you who don't know, you get a white card back illustrating some level of intent. I was selling med sup, so it was pretty much less regulated, didn't have the federal regulations. So I would actually take the card and just go knock on the door. I'd try to map out a journey that gave me the highest bang for the buck. I'd knock on the door, pleated pants, looking the very salesman. But I was 26. I was young, clean shaved. I think I did a pretty good job getting in. But what I figured out was that is not the way I wanted to do it forever. I had a couple of things that happened. A couple of people I listened to is actually Jeff. Back then I was on the podcast circuit. I was in my Corolla, and I tell people this all the time. I would hit the podcast up. I started off productivity podcasts. Then I started searching for who is producing content on insurance, and Jeff Root was on there. I mean, was it
that was a long time ago. That was like 2014, 2015. Modern Life Insurance Selling Podcast.
Selling podcasts. And so I would listen to that, and so I started hearing people talk about the internet and insurance lead development, which now seems so stupid, but in 2014 there really still weren't that many people doing it. Like, it's funny, a lot of people have made a lot of money not because they were geniuses, but because they were early. So and so I got into I started saying, well, how can I break into this? And I didn't take an SEO route. I got into a podcast called The Art of Paid Traffic, and I started using Facebook ads. And Facebook ads, for most people who don't know, Facebook didn't monetize its platform right away. If you go watch like The Social Network, you'll see, they kept putting off monetization because they didn't know how big they wanted to get it, right? Well, I don't know, it's 2012 or sometimes when they really started monetizing it, but there weren't a lot of insurance guys on there. And I say all this because what happened was I figured out how to make ads on Facebook that today wouldn't work. This is before you had a sponsored tag or anything like that. And I was able to get my phone to ring, with high intent people and I was advertising dental policies. In my head, a dental policy was an easy lead in because it's a vanity insurance product. Everybody wants clean teeth. Nobody wants insurance, right? Everybody wants money. Nobody wants life insurance, right? Everybody wants to make sure all their medical bills are paid, but nobody wants health insurance. You have to sell and this is a lot of when you're digesting marketing information, it's the messaging. What do they really want? Nobody wants insurance. They want their family not to be broke and in despair when they die. They want, they want that effect. But dental was one that was just so obvious to me. I could go out. Everybody wants clean teeth. And I got my phone to just ring like crazy with this dental insurance ad. And then I would target 64-year-olds with dental insurance because I knew they were also turning 65. So they'd be going on Medicare. So I'd cross sell. It was really 1 in 8 of them I'd get to buy a med sup from me. But I was still selling a lot of dental insurance, too. Mm-hmm. So there for a little bit, I was very comfortable with that. And there was a week where I sold 72 policies in a week from basically people calling me or messaging me. And I said, I don't want there's always going to be a honey hole you find, and so I don't want to deter anyone to think, oh, well, that's lucky. Look, Jeff's had some honey holes. If you try a lot of shit for a long time, eventually you're going to have something that works really well. One thing you can be sure of, though, is that marketers will ruin everything and that honey hole will dry up. Now, I was selling all that insurance and I was so all of a sudden, remember my goal is 60,000. Well, I'm blazed past that. And then it was you kind of get this feeling of I have arrived. Thankfully, what actually happened is I won some carrier incentive trips and got on the carrier incentive trips. And then I met the guys that were winning, that were the top producers. And I realized one thing, they were all call center owners. All had LOAs. And so I didn't want to go and build a call center necessarily, but that was the introduction. Meeting, Robert Bache and Medicare Bob and Jagger Esch and Richard Cantu. I met him in Bora Bora for the first time, by the way. So Dante was one of the early guys on an early carrier incentive trip I met. Super nice guy. And then not long after that, he had sold to eHealth, sold Go Medigap. And, when the rumor mill number that I heard made me think, I'm thinking way too small. And then you hear about the LOA concept. And so I decided I had the lead flow. Because I did at the time. Now that lead flow goes like, you're always chasing like lead flow, right? And so I decided to hire LOAs, and I got very fortunate. That one of the first LOAs I hired was my first cousin, Will Chat. And and we're big disc assessment, like personality guys. And he is a high S stabilizer, not a dynamic salesperson, but extremely reliable. He's still with me. He's actually just got promoted to the vice president of distribution for us. But he's a very, very reliable guy. So, and I had good lead flow. So he came right in and started doing it, and it worked really well. Now, along the way in LOAs, I've hired some doozies, but for the most part, what you'll find with LOAs, and this is so different, is if you're handling lead flow and you're handling, operational, things, which are less in the beginning. In the beginning, it's mostly lead flow. This is all you need. If you're handling that, you'd be surprised what types of people will make it in the insurance industry. It is the lead flow in the beginning that is the biggest deterrent. And so really my first one was him. My second one was if you look at the disc assessment, he's a high C, he's an analyzer. He's my chief marketing officer now, really should be chief technology officer. So my first two hires at LOAs, both successful, by the way, because of the lead flow I was giving them. Neither one of them are salespeople and should not be salespeople. They are not salespeople. They are very much technically minded leaders, that type. They're good people, but they're not salespeople. No. So I think that's an interesting thing, is that the first two people that I hired, the first time I hired, the first problem I had with an LOA was a high D guy. Because high D guys sometimes think they can do it better, and that was the first time we clashed. I clashed with one, was actually probably the one that was the most like me, the most, I can do it. I can do it better. If he could do that, I can do this, that's what I thought about Jeff. I'd hear Jeff's podcast back in the day, The Modern Life Insurance Agent. And I would say, man, this guy's content is great. If he can do that, I can do that. Not like he's an idiot, well, I can do it. It was just more like, I thought if anyone could do something, I could do it, unless they were like, Bill Gates or something. Right. But
Yeah.
anyway, that's kind of that early journey and like the mental thing that went through. And, I feel fortunate that I took that path early, that I didn't do the broker side, but I didn't get put into like the pyramid scheme type of businesses. I'm very thankful that I didn't come into one of the 3-lettered acronyms that told you to recruit, because I feel like I would have gotten tricked into that path, unfortunately.
So you knew it was time to hire your first LOA because you had the lead flow. You were generating all these dental leads, really Medicare leads, right? And you went on that trip. All the top agencies were call centers, LOA models, and you hired your first one because you had the lead flow. How would you advise your agents when they know it's time to go LOA? Like, at what point in your business journey is it time?
Okay. I do think that you need to go and get, it's helpful to go and write, a few hundred applications, for sure. You definitely want a process. So I've told people a lot that not all LOA opportunities are created equal. There are LOA recruiting models. There are people that just put people LOA and they don't support them much. And so LOA as an acronym in the insurance world can take a lot of heat for people misusing it. My thought is, when you can create consistent lead flow, and I don't mean like holy grail leads, because the leads that we have now, I wouldn't say are holy grail. We just know how to tap into the lead flow. It's if it's consistent, That's all that matters. Like, it could technically be consistently shitty leads and it's still consistent. We're always working towards, I want some better leads, right? I want to try to, what's my best lead flow? But really, if I can create consistent lead flow, then I need one LOA. And it starts with, like, you see call centers and they're private equity backed, or and they'll come, or they're part of like an arm of a publicly traded organization, and they'll come in and they're like, we're going to hire 100 LOAs. And some people will think of that as what I'm talking about. I started with one, then it was two. The first time I hired more than one at a time was only like maybe 4 years ago. I hired like 2 or 3 at a time. Now we actually hire between 6 and 8 at a time. Now there are big call centers that I'm friends with that'll hire 30 at a time, and they'll do it as a class. But it didn't really make sense in the beginning because the way I trained them was they would just shadow me. It was 1v1, look, I'm going to hire you. You're going to listen to everything I do.
And that is so powerful though, because I mean, just an agent having one LOA agent, right? That's successful, that's replicating what they do, is extremely powerful in a business when it comes to income, when it comes to really going from self-employed to business owner. I mean, you and I were talking before this, how just having an LOA agent is worth as many as, if you were to, recruit and override a bunch of agents,
I would say
does.
I would say 25 to 30 brokers for one LOA or something like that.
Yeah. And that's just what it's worth. But when you factor in like just what you pour into them and the relationship you have with them, and just the meaningfulness of it all, and just how much easier it is working with one person rather than making babysitting 25, 30 agents, you know it makes a lot of sense, and we're seeing a big wave of LOA agencies pop up. What we call them free lead programs in the life insurance business, remote LOA programs. And it makes a ton of sense. And in my mind, I think most agents should be LOA. Like most agents are not meant to be cash flowing a business and building a business, right? We were never taught that. And it takes a mindset and it takes a certain type of person to be able to execute it. And LOA, the LOA model, is something that we're just going to see a lot more of. And
Yep.
that's why I wanted to have this conversation with you, because there's some pros and cons to LOAs too. Why don't we talk about that?
Yeah.
Right. So when we talk about all of the pros, like what are some of the things that, like, an agent that is thinking about starting an LOA program, like what are some of the traps, the downsides to it?
Yeah, I would say so. When you recruit a broker, it's really easy to be like, if you fail, you fail. It's on you. Like, it's on you. You're a broker. If you're a broker, you are a business owner. If you're an independent agent, you're paid the lion's share of the commission is coming to you for every sale. Then if you fail, it is on you. And there's no shame in that, because there is a high failure rate in it. It is what it is. If your LOA fails, it could be on them, but most of the time it's on you, because what they're asked to do is, if you create a process and the process is a script or you train them 1v1. In the beginning, I was training them 1v1 conversationally. Now, when we hire people, there is a little bit of a script. It's not super scripted, because we try to be more, it's more of like, you have to say these things, but it's still a conversation. But I'm creating a process for that person. Hopefully I'm selecting them well. So for us, one of the ways we select that I think it's important is, an LOA is not somebody that wants to make $1 million a year. It's not somebody that wants to make $100 million. It's not somebody who wants to make 500,000. We actually ask them what their ideal income is. Say 2 years into this opportunity, what would your ideal income be? And we want them to say somewhere between 70 and 150,000. Over 150 becomes unmanageable in an LOA. It's not that they can't make that. Like, we have people that make more than that, but it's unmanageable expectations. I want that to be a surprise. And you think about this, an LOA, I say never, almost never do I take somebody that already has a license and put them in an LOA position. If they went and got their license on their own and they were pursuing that type of career, that is going to signal to me that they're not going to be a good fit in the LOA model.
Interesting.
It's not foolproof, but like the idea that they're like, I want to go be an insurance agent on my own, probably not as fitting. Now, on top of that, I would, if I was going to do it, because I have a couple that I have, but I'm a big personality test guy. I don't want them to be high D and already had a license. I can promise you, if you hire an LOA that is a high D personality, had already had their license, 99% of those are going to cause you so much headache, they're not worth it. They might sell a lot, but that's not the key thing. The key thing in LOA is I want to develop this asset that I can keep for a long time. And for me to keep them a long time, it's kind of like a customer. I want to keep a customer a long time. What do I need to do? I need to put them in the product that is good for them, right? I want to keep having good service, right? So if I want to keep an LOA, I want the opportunity to fit them for as long as possible, right? And so if I create a good system, I maintain that system, I keep it going solid, but I also picked the right person for that system. And the good news is this isn't that difficult, because it's really not like, it's not rocket surgery, as my Uncle Bobby used. You're not looking for a needle in a haystack with an LOA. So if you get into disc assessment, the most common personality is a high S. It's a stabilizer. That's the most common personality, at least in like American culture. It's what school trains people to be. It trains you to be an employee, right? And an S, so it's a high S. As a broker, that person almost never makes it, almost never succeeds. In an LOA position, they're almost ideal. You want the I's, the S's, maybe even the C's a little bit, but those are like, you want your analytical people, you want your empathetic people, you want your people that are fun. I don't want the highly driven people. Now, occasionally that works out where I get that guy, and not to get like too much into that, but like the concept here is just, I want a hand in glove experience. I want someone who absolutely fits, this role. But there's more people that fit this role than fit the brokerage model. And one trap that I find people falling into is they'll offer way more commission than necessary, because they're thinking like, what opportunity would I want to be a part of? Well, if you're already a broker and you're already making money as a broker, you're already not your LOA.
Right.
So don't think about what opportunity you would sell. Think about what opportunity would be good for them. And I'm telling you, if you design it for that 70 to 150 range, like a successful agent in here at the low end will make 70,000, and at the high end will be 150, occasionally a 200, 250.
And you have to do that if you want to maintain people. And in our call centers, right? If you're not making 75 grand within your first 3 months, pacing for that, you're fired, right? Because somebody else needs to be put in that process. And I 100% agree with you with your sentiment on people without a license being successful and hiring for the person, and not just because they have a license. One of the biggest things that we've done in our LOA platform is our accelerator program, where we just put unlicensed people for 2 weeks in our conference room, and they study together to pass the test. Whoever, we want them to work, but they're in the call center, and if they pass the test, they're immediately hired and they start that Monday, right? And so they're all rooting each other on.
That's in ring. We hire. So we will. So what we started doing is when we hire bulk, we would put them in a room like that. So we put them in the classroom. And we have a classroom where all they do for the first week is study. The goal is to try to get them to take normally we're hiring people with jobs, which is also a hiring tip. People that are looking for jobs are not always great people. But my goal is to take somebody that's got a job where they're making 45,000 and sell them on 75,000 plus, or 70,000 plus, because that's a huge bump from them. I'm not looking for people that are making 100,000 to try to sell them on the $70,000 to $150,000 range. That's harder to sell on. But if I put them in there. They're all taking the test together. So the last 7 we hired, only one of them didn't pass the test. He couldn't pass it. He did it like 3 times, and then, we have a rule that we'll pay for it the first time. So that's another thing. When you're doing LOAs, we're paying for the licensing, we're paying for the pre-licensing course, we're paying for all of it. So you got to think about who these people are that maybe wouldn't do all this on their own, but will do it in that system where it's like I'm paying for the entire thing. And most people can pass the licensing test. Like we've had classes where I've hired that 100% of them passed it. There's I don't know why this one guy couldn't, but and we were actually pretty excited about it. He was bilingual. Anyway, yeah, it's that 70 to 150. I think is huge. There's a lot of things that we've learned the hard way, but this would say that the success rate within the LOA model is so high because you're not having to worry about, you're not a business owner. A broker is a business owner. You're a mini business owner. I have to worry about my lead flow. I have to worry about all this. And that's why more FMOs are not doing like lead flow and stuff for brokers, because it doesn't make any sense. Like they are the business owner. They're getting the lion's share of the commission. They should be paying for all of that.
Absolutely. For the agents out there that, they're selling profitably over the phone right now, and they're looking for the next step. And the next step for most agents is, hire an assistant, start recruiting, or an LOA. Yeah. And those seem to be the big three where agents are, where they're successful, they're making a good income, but they're kind of maybe, a little burnt out, or they're making a lot of income for a couple years and now they want to step it up a notch. And so I want to have a conversation, just end this conversation with the difference between recruiting and overriding an agent and the risks involved in that versus an LOA agent, because it's scary to hire an LOA agent, pay for all their leads. What if they don't work out? What if they don't show up? What if, all these things that get into agents' heads, the cost of doing that?
Yeah. I would say, one tip there is hire fast, fire fast. The good news about hiring your first LOA is there's no shortage of people to hire. There's just not. There are good quality people out there. I think there's this like idea that like nobody wants to work. Well, that's not what we find. We find that when given a good opportunity, good people do want to work, and they want to work really hard. So like, of course there is more risk. You are going to make an investment in someone, and every now and then that investment doesn't work out. But with the broker side shouldn't be like a solution to like, oh, well, there's no risk here. There is a risk, there's roll-up debt risk. There are there's risk that you'd waste a bunch of your time, and your time is very valuable. I will hit on the admin side. I hired LOAs before I hired admins because I don't think I needed that many admins in the beginning. Now we do admin now, but like I'm more of a one admin to about 3 to 4 agents internally right now. And but I think I'm probably one of the only people that's telling people hire an LOA before you hire an admin.
I mean, just to kind of wrap the whole conversation up here, the LOAs kind of have a bad rap, especially in life insurance, because it's, you should never assign your commissions to somebody else, is what people will say on social media, right? Like, why would you do all the work and assign your commissions? Well, yeah, if you're paying for your leads, no, you should never assign your commissions to somebody else. But at the same time, there are people who you really have to come to terms with. Like, there are people who are better marketers than you, that can better processes, better training, that if you just went into their system, you can make a lot more money than just doing this on your own and trying to figure everything else out.
Yeah. And you have self-aware, like this Gary Vaynerchuk says that self-awareness is a superpower. And, you have to know who you are, right? Like, what's your goal? If your goal, like, if my goal was to make, like, when I came in intros, with what my goal was, if the opportunity to work in my office now was available at the time, I would have definitely done it. like I would have done that. And I would have been, would I have stayed there forever? I don't know. I have no idea. I know who I am now, but I don't know. I might not have. So the the good news is though there's so many people who would thrive in that ecosystem that and let me tell you guys this too. Like I've had I would say in our office, we have a very high success rate with the LOAs. One, more people can survive in an LOA environment than can a broker. Two, we have gotten better at selecting who these people are. Three, we try to do our best. We have tiered lead flow structure based on their performance. So we can I always get into that, but I have like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Tier 1 is working inbound click to call campaigns. Once they hit certain metrics, we have an overflow area, and then an overflow is getting the overflow of what our tier 3 can't reach on the highest quality stuff, which is direct mail inbounds, Google SEO, like the highest quality stuff we have, branded referrals, everything, Google Maps listings, everything. But that in that environment, like we've created this funnel, like we've gotten better and better at like where they come in. But even when we weren't that good at it, like the success rate was higher because there's so many people that are looking for that opportunity. Another tip here: when you're recruiting an agent in, like if I was recruiting Jeff Root to the insurance industry back in the day, like I'd be like, maybe not Jeff. Let's say, like if I'm recruiting, like, think of the stud agent that comes right in. It's like fast paced, buying watches, all that, and he's selling a shitload of insurance. You're recruiting that guy. You're like, dude, you can make so much money in this. That's the way they do it, right? When you're recruiting an LOA, don't do that. You want to talk to somebody. Let's say they're making 45,000, but like, look, you could make you could make more than what you're making now in an environment that you enjoy, in a field that you find more fulfillment in than what you do now. It's not a huge promise. You're looking at like, I don't come in and tell. That's why I don't say, here's the income earning potential. I don't do that. A lot of ads are out there, and I'm not saying this doesn't work, advertising income earning potential. What we've been able to do is organically recruit people and ask them what they want to make. And the flip side, one of the things I wanted to say, and I'm not linear in this thought, but we have had ones that come through LOA and become brokers later on. And some of those are some of my best downlines, and they still started out in the LOA structure. And the cool thing about that is they got to see the entire structure from within. And now they're on our broker side. So they're still partners of ours.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I came from a call center. I sold a few thousand policies in a call center before I went independent. That's how I got my chops. That's how I learned how to sell. And then I learned how to market, right?
Bob did the same thing. He started at Transact in a call center and then started his own and then sold it to AmeriLife for millions of dollars. And then Jagger S started at an F&O and actually started developing leads for his downlines on Google. And they kept telling him how good they were. And so he's like, I guess I should just start my own LOA. It's not really good at lead development. So you got to, like, when you look at the way these people, I don't remember how Cantu started, but I think he was a broker, but I thought he might have been taking like preset appointments at one point in his house. But a lot of people's journeys are like that. Isn't it interesting that some of the top people in the industry started as LOAs? And that's what I find. Like I can think right now of 3 downline agencies that I have that are in my top 20 downline brokerage side partners that started as LOAs in our office.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a path. I mean, number one, to grow from an independent agent doing well and hiring your first LOA, that's a big step. It's a great step. But on the flip side of that, to be an LOA, there's no shame in that at all. You can make good money and be happy. I mean, people end up going LOA because they're burnt out, right? And burnout comes from working too hard on things that don't really light you up. And that's buying leads. That's trying to generate leads, right? Those things eat people up Like just the constant complaints about these leads, it's the leads. But if you have to worry about that and you would truly enjoy what you do, being an LOA agent, I mean, I still know people from a call center that I worked at that are still LOA agents, 10 years later, make doing really, really well. And they're just good at what they do. And um, yeah, and they could,
I give you this example. Like I just hired someone with on my marketing team who took a pay cut to come from the job that she was in. She's a master's degree in civil engineering and was programming computer or robots that are on the assembly line in a Toyota facility, and has a high paying job, hates it, wants to be in marketing, it voluntarily told me, I will take X amount of pay cut to come and work for you. And so I say that because we gotta quit as so many insurance agency builders are salespeople first, and when they become salespeople on the broker side, they tend to fit a certain type of thought process or personality or understanding of the world, and they're chasing bigger and bigger and bigger, right? But like you got to understand that some people's like what's important to them is working somewhere or working in a field that they enjoy. Money comes second to. And it should technically day to day. Do I want to be happy? Yes. I happen to be happy doing what I'm doing and driving this production in this business. And that has yielded great returns. But honestly, it yielded great returns because I was operating in my 10 all day long. So if you can create an opportunity to find other people and let them operate in their 10, which may be communicating with people all day long on the phone and selling. And then maybe at some point, like as our business has grown, people that started out as LOA agents and admins have made it through to positions. I mean, I have people that I started at $12 an hour that are making $100,000 salary for me now. I have people that I had one that I started at $12 an hour plus commission as an LOA that has a $250,000 salary and a huge, he made 450 actually. With our sale, he made $750,000 last year working for us. And I started him when I found he was making 35 grand,
yeah,
And so like the opportunity doesn't, but if I'd have told him, hey, do you want to make 750,000? He'd be like, this guy's full of shit. Or,
yeah,
and it's not that your LOAs will make that, but you can grow an operation that the LOAs and the admins in those entry level positions gravitate toward higher positions.
absolutely. And that's a great point. And I think it starts with agents being self-aware. If you're not cutting it, if you're failing out, you're not making the income you want, maybe you are meant to be LOA, and that's not a bad thing because you could excel for a few years in an LOA shop, move to a maybe sales manager or something else as that agency grows, and those opportunities kind of fall in your lap if you just do good work and care.
Russell Noga started as an LOA in Cantu's shop. He was one of his top LOAs. He runs metasubs.org, and I know his friends with Cantu. Like sometimes you can start there. Doesn't mean you have to finish. And I'm not saying like leverage the LOA opportunity for that, because some people, the majority of people are going to be permanently happy in the LOA position.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think most agents are built for LOA. You just have to find the right LOA shop. I think that's the thing. Most agents have this view of what being an LOA agent is. Like you're being taken advantage of, and you're sent to call on these really aged leads, and you're just grinding all day. That's not a good LOA shop. That's not a good LOA setup.
Like all of a sudden they become Marxist about insurance sales.
Yeah.
Like we're like, oh, I can't, the workers should share the means of production. And then it's like, but this is not the way it is. This capitalistically is working very well for you and the right person. But it is funny that like if that statement as a whole, if they really thought about the way they're saying it, all these insurance agents, like no one should be LOA. You're giving away your commissions. You're being taken advantage of. It's like they're Marxists.
Totally. Total. Funny. All right, Justin. Hey, man. Thanks a ton for your insights here. I know we could probably go on for another hour or so on this, but for the sake of time and everybody watching this, we'll cut it here and tell people where to find you.
Yeah, man. JustinBrock.com has links to everything we do. And of course, always trying to grow on Instagram and YouTube at the Justin Brock on both platforms.
Awesome. All right, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah. Thanks, Jeff.